All right, welcome back to Homework with Miss Pittman. We're going to be doing Tuesday's homework for October 26th. So here is your homework. So you need to make sure you have your homework out and ready to go. Our first problem here is order of operations. And with order of operations, we have a saying that we learned last year. It starts with a P. If we remember it, it's please, excuse, my dear Aunt Sally. And so what you need to do is you need to write those steps down on the side on your scratch paper. Then you need to copy down the problem that we're working with, exactly the way it's written. So we have 50 divided by 2 plus 5 to the third power minus 5. And so our steps that we wrote over here to the side is like a checklist for us. And so remember, P stands for parentheses. So we look at our problem and go, do I have any parentheses? And yes, I have parentheses. So I'm going to underline that portion. That's what I'm focused on. You can box it in even if you want to box it in so that you're focused on that portion right there. And so we're going to use 50 divided by 2. And what you can do is you need to put 50 divided by 2 in your calculator. So go ahead and do that right now. All right, 50 divided by 2 is 25. And now that you've figured out that, you're done with this whole little section right here. You don't need it anymore. So now we have this other part to the right that we need to bring down that we have left to find. And so I'm going to go back to my checklist and look at parentheses, starting with our P. Do I have any more parentheses? No, in my new problem, my equivalent expression, I don't have any more parentheses, so I can check that off. And I'm going to move to the next step, which is E, which stands for exponent, that little number that's up at the top. Do we have a problem with a little number at the top? And we do, right here. So I'm going to box this portion in. Now remember, this does not mean 5 times 3. This means that I have 5 3 times. So I have 1, 2, 3. And it's not skip counting 5, 10, 15. You've got to do those little carrots and drop it down. 5 times 5 is 25. Bring down your other 5. 5 times 25 is 125. So 5 to the third power is 125. And since we're done with this section right here, I need to bring everything else down with it. And so we have 25 plus 125 minus 5. So I'm done with exponents. And so I move to the next part of my list, which is multiplication or division. And when I glance back over at my problem, I notice that I don't have any multiplication or division, so I'm done here. And so now I have addition and subtraction. And it's whichever comes first when I'm reading. So like when you're reading a book, you read from left to right. So you're going to work the problems in that direction as well. So the first problem I have is 25 plus 125. And you can put that in your calculator if you want to. And so that's going to give me 150. And then I'm going to bring down my leftovers. Well, the only thing left to do is 150 minus 5. And you plug that into your calculator. And you should have gotten 145. 145 is our answer for that. Now the next problem is finding the difference. You know how to find the difference. I'm going to skip over that one because you should know how to subtract and find the difference. You should know that if I have more on the floor, I have to go next door and get 10 more. Well, I have a 0 here. I can't borrow from 0. So I have to come to the 8. He's going to become a 7. Now he's got some money. He's going to lend them $1. Okay, so now he's got 9. And he's going to change that dollar into 10 dimes. So 10 plus 5 is 15. Now I can subtract 15 minus 7. And you should be able to subtract through all of that. Now our next problem is finding the quotient of fractions. And do you remember our saying for dividing fractions? Right, you have keep, change, reciprocal. So I'm going to keep the first fraction the same. I'm going to change my division to multiplication, and I'm going to reciprocal or flip the second fraction. And from here, you just multiply straight across. So 8 times 5 is 40, and 11 times 3 is 33. This fraction right here would be considered improper because the top is bigger than the bottom. So we need to look at this as a division problem where it says 40 divided by 33. So I need to put 40 divided by 33 in the problem. 33 will go into 40 one time, and I subtract with 7 left over. I need to take my leftovers, my remainder, and make it into a fraction. So remember that whatever number's on the outside goes down bottom, and whatever number's left over goes on top. And so our answer is 1 and 7/33. So it's 1 and 7/33. The next problem that we have is a long division problem. So we've got 3,784. And you better be writing this on the back of your paper because if I'm writing it, you should be writing it. 18 will not go into 3. Well, before we start that, what's our steps for long division? You remember it starts with a D. Does McDonald's sell burgers? We divide, we multiply, we subtract, and we bring down. So 18 will go into 3 0 times. So then we go and look at 37. How many times will 18 go into 37? Well, you instantly want to say 1, but what about 2? Let's try 2. 18 times 2. 2 times 8 is 16. Carry my 1. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. 36 will work because it's smaller than 37, but it's super close to 37. So I can use this. 37 minus 6 is 1. So after I subtract, I bring down. So I bring down my 8, have 18. 18 will go into 18 one time. So 1 times 18 is 18. My next step is to subtract. 18 minus 18 is 0. My next step is to bring down. Well, now I have 4. How many times will 18 go into 4? 0 times. 0 times 18 is 0. Subtract. We're supposed to bring down, but I have nothing to bring down. So do you remember what we have to add in order for us to bring something down? That's right. We have to add a decimal. If I add a decimal here, I have to add it up here. And put a 0 behind it because it doesn't change the number at all. So now we have 40. About how many times will 18 go into 40? Well, we found out that 18 times 2 gives us 36, which is super close to 40, and I don't think we can use any more. So let's try 2. Gives us 36. When I subtract and count up 36 to 40, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, I get 4 left over. Have my 0. And we're going to notice something here. What do you notice here? That the 40 is beginning to repeat itself. So we'd use a 2 again, and a 2 again, and so it would keep repeating. So instead of keep writing 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, we can just put that repeating bar over the top, making our answer 210 and 2/10 repeated over and over and over again. Okay? Because there's no sense in us to keep working all that. All right. Next problem we have is to find the product. Now, when we find the product of a number, remember, we don't have to line up decimals. The only time we line up decimals is when we add and subtract. When we find the product, we pretend that the decimal doesn't even exist. So I'm going to pretend I have 4,307 times 18. And so I'm going to start here. And so I have 7 times 8. Well, 7 times 7 is 49. So I add 7 more to that, and you get 56. Carry my 5. Remember, this 8 has to touch every number on the top. So 8 times 0 is 0, plus 5 is 5. 8 times 3 is 24, so 4, carry the 2. 8 times 4 is 32, plus 2 is 34. Because I am done with the 8 and everything that I carried, and I'm done with that place, I need to put a 0 right here and move to the next number. And so that next digit needs to touch every digit that is on top. So 1 times 7 is 7, 1 times 0 is 0, 1 times 3 is 3, and 1 times 4 is 4. If you have to touch it just like I did, there is nothing wrong with that. It lets you know that you are touching every single digit. So you add it up. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 2, carry my 1. 5, 7, 7. But we can't stop here. We have found the product, but we have forgotten about our decimals. We can't forget about our decimals. So I have to come back to the original problem and count how many numbers are behind the decimal place. 1, 2, 3. So I start at the end and I count 3. 1, 2, 3, decimal place. And there's our answer. Okay. All right, the next question says find the quotient. We have a decimal here. So I'm going to build my house. Remember, whatever comes first goes in the house. So here, our number one thing to remember when we're dividing decimals is that we want a whole number on the outside of the house. Right now, we don't have a whole number because we have this decimal here. So what we have to do is we have to slide that decimal to the right until it's a whole number. So I only had to move it once to make it a whole number. And whatever I do to the outside, I have to do to the inside. And so I have a decimal here, and I just bring it up. So now I'm done with the decimals. And so I like to erase those little arrows afterwards because they get in my way. And I get distracted. And y'all know I get distracted pretty easily. So I have 18 going into 2. I only do that 0 times. So now I've got 23. 18 to go to 23 one time. One time. There it goes. 1 times 18 is 18. Now I subtract. I'm going to start at 18 and you can count up, or you can come next door and you can go 10 more. 13 minus 8, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 is 5. Bring down my 7. About how many times will 18 go into 57? Well, our division problem before, we found out that 18 times 2 is 36. We need to go a little bit higher than that. So let's try 18 times 4. That's 2. Carry the 3. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 3 is 7. That's way too big, so we need to dial it back some. 8 times 3 is 24. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 2 is 5. And that works for us. So we're going to put a 3. 54. Subtract 3. Bring down my 0. All right. We know that 18 times 2 gives me 36. So I can't use 2, so I've got to use 1. So 18, I subtract, I get 2, put my 0, bring down my 0, we'll go into 18 once. Oops, my bad. It's 12, that's 120. All right, so 120. How many times will it go into 120? So we've seen that 4 gets me to 72. Let's try a little bit higher of a number. Let's try 6. Like I said, just pick a number. If you don't know, just pick a number. 6 times 8 is 48. All right, 6 times 1 is 6, plus 4 is 108. That's probably as far as we're going to get to go. So when I subtract, 120 minus 8 is going to give me 12. So I'm going to add a 0 and I'm back at 120. So I notice a pattern that it's going to start repeating. So that means that 6 is going to start repeating over and over and over again. So that means I can be done. So my answer is going to be 13.1 with the 6 repeating. The 1's not going to repeat, but the 6 will repeat. All right, a lot of work. The video's getting long, so we got to kind of keep moving. Our next problem is use the distributive property to express 14 and 63 in the as an expression. So we're going to put these on the slide. And I'm going to notice 14 and 63. What can I pull out of 14 and 63? Well, if you think about it, our numbers to try are 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, and 13. A number that instantly jumps out to me is 7, because I know 14 times 2 is 7. So I'm going to try 7. 14 divided by 7 is 2. 63 divided by 7 is 9. And I know that 2 and 9 don't have anything in common. So that means I'm done. So what I have to do is set up my bones and drop my numbers down. Okay, and I'm going to keep the sign the same, and then that's all we have to do here. The last problem we have, there's 2 more problems. I'm going to skip. Emma says that the GCF of 16 and 12 is 48. Her friend Grace says the answer is 4. Who is right? All you have to do is put 16 and 24 on the slide, and you're going to slide it and see what you get as your GCF there. Now, the last one down here I want to talk about is write the ratio of squares to circles in the 3 different ways. We haven't done ratios yet, but it's really simple. All you have to do is count and follow what comes first. We're talking about squares to circles. Squares comes first, so that's what goes first. So I'm going to count how many squares. 1, 2, 3, 4. How many circles? 1, 2, 3. Okay, this little sign means it's a ratio. You just copy it down here, copy it down here, and that's how ratios can be written with the little dots, with the word to, or as a fraction. And that's how we do your homework. If you have any questions, go back to the video, email me, and I hope you have a fantastic day. If you watch this full complete video, what I would like for you to do is come back up to the top of here and put stars, and that lets me know you watched the video and checked your answers. All right, see you tomorrow.